when these guys are going through this where they're tearing the FNAF community apart through attacking the haters, Scott is doing nothing. Scott is standing by, watching everything burn and going, this is okay. That's literally Scott right now. Today's discussion is going to be a follow-up video on the FNAF Fanverse. Last time we did a video on Peargate and everything involving that. Today we're going to be doing a discussion on the Fanverse as a whole. For those of you guys who need to be caught up, the Fanverse is an initiative by Scott, the creator of FNAF. He wanted to be able to give back to the community by offering certain fan game creators the ability to be paid for their work while they're developing it, and then give them the right to sell their work as a finished game. But he gets merchandising rights over their characters, and he chooses who gets accepted. So we're going to be talking about as many of the projects as I want to, and the creators behind them, and the difficulties they have caused Scott and the Fanverse, because honestly, I think the Fanverse is a train wreck. Is it not financially viable? I'm not going to say that. It's making money. It's getting attention. It's getting clicks. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily successful or that it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, first of all, we're going to talk about Jonachrome. He is the guy who made One Night at Flumpy's 3. One Night at Flumpy's 3 was a follow-up to One Night at Flumpy's 1 and 2. The original One Night at Flumpy's game was made as a shitpost and was made to mock FNAF. And then that did so well, he made a sequel. Then he said he was retiring. And then when Scott decided to offer him some money, he came out of retirement, made another shitpost game. People really liked his stuff. I don't like it. I honestly think Five Nights at Fuckboys is a better parody than Flumpy's, but Flumpy's is more marketable, so Flumpy's gets the acceptance and Fuckboys doesn't.
Yeah.
So, his game was the first game to be released under the Fanverse, which means that it is the thing for all the other ones to live up to. And not long after the game was released, he ended up getting called out on Twitter for being in a relationship with a 13-year-old girl when he was in his 20s. This got him a lot of backlash, a lot of hate, and he ended up going on Twitter confirming it and saying that he was going to go off to get help on his own and that he would come back eventually one day.
Yeah.
So,
not a good situation there.
We're already starting off with a big flop. Like, it made money. Yeah, it's financially viable, but the guy connected to it was hooking up with a young girl. So that's already one black mark. That's already one negative in the Fanverse initiative. Let's go to the second one. Kane Carter, Pop Goes Arcade. Now, if you watched the last video, you would know that he was already foolish enough to trust his leaks and his builds to randos on the internet, who ended up leaking it to the Pear Squad, who ended up threatening to leak it to everyone. So, you already know Kane isn't...
They did leak it.
Yeah. But I'm saying the situation happened. So Kane already isn't the brightest, and Kane already isn't the most reliable and secure person. Because if he was, he wouldn't give this stuff to random people, and it wouldn't have leaked to begin with. And this wasn't just info. This was a whole lot of development stuff that should not be shared with anyone. Any professional wouldn't have let this happen. So that's already something going against him. But let's talk about what he's been doing. So he didn't think that his game did well. His game being Pop Goes Arcade. It released, it was the, I want to say second game. I could be wrong. If there's other ones, correct me. But
I think it was the second, but I'm not entirely
sure. It's
one
of the first games to release under the initiative. It came out after Flumpy's. And according to the guy himself, he thinks that his game wasn't successful because on Steam, there is a threshold you have to reach before you can start giving out bonuses. He wanted to give out bonuses that were digital trading cards, and he couldn't do that because his game didn't sell enough. Now, some
Nope.
people would say that's because Scott didn't promote it. I say Scott doesn't have to promote it. I know you disagree with me on that, but I think that Scott's giving them the money to make the game. It's up to them to build the audience, not Scott.
I mean, I think saying that he's working with the people is saying like something would help. Saying, hey, this is being licensed. I'm giving them the license, so maybe check their stuff out too.
I agree, but it seemed like to me Scott was just giving them the funding and the platform and not necessarily giving them his full promotion. That's what it seemed like to me.
Fair.
Anyway.
Does
But
kind of
anyway,
seem that way.
This guy called out people who were critical of the Fanverse on Twitter. But for as far as I've seen, his call-outs aren't that mean. They're mostly just poking fun at people and being very vague and not really going in depth. It's like he wants to be a shit poster, he wants to stir the pot, but he also doesn't want to be held responsible, and he doesn't want people to give him backlash. So he's taking the nonchalant, I'm a cool guy on the internet approach, where it's like he's acting like he's above it and he doesn't care, when really he's right down with it and doing the same stuff everyone else is doing. He's just being vague about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what he's doing. He's not the worst of the people calling people out who are critical of the FNAF franchise, but he's up there. He's retweeting stuff. He's mentioning it. So in Kane's process of randomly calling things out on Twitter but being really vague about it, it ended up making his audience call out Theft King, who is someone who is very critical of FNAF in general and had been slightly talking about some of the missteps of the Fanverse, but he isn't the worst of the detractors of the Fanverse. He ended up indirectly causing him to get a lot of hate, and Theft King ended up having a breakdown on social media because of all the harassment he was getting from Kane's community. And when people asked him to apologize to Theft King for the stuff that he put him through indirectly, instead of apologizing, he pretended to apologize and instead rickrolled people.
Yeah, kind of a really dick move.
So
like, I get he wasn't the one who directed hate or anything towards him, and he kind of does deserve some criticism, but that's still not cool, I don't think.
Yeah. In my honest opinion, I don't respect Kane because he indirectly calls people out rather than directly addressing them. He plays childish games by avoiding controversy, by pretending to be impartial, when in reality he's just sticking up for his brand and only giving attention to the positive people by naming them and not the negative people by naming them. He is basically your usual social media influencer, and I don't like what he's doing, and I don't like the playing games and trolling people. I think that you're given a lot of power by Scott, and you are given a lot of responsibility by Scott. And Scott wouldn't do this, so you shouldn't do it either. Don't troll people under the name of the Fanverse Initiative. You're making yourself look bad, you're making your games look bad, you're making Scott look bad. You're not being impartial, you're not being neutral, you're being a jerk. That is the end of it. Moving on, Fiznom. Fiznom is the worst of the two. Fiznom is the guy who is making FNAF Plus. Now, FNAF Plus is going to be a good game. 10 out of 10. It's going to be fucking wonderful. But unfortunately, Fiznom has not been the best person. Now let's start with, first of all, he was critical of FNAF, that being the new game's security breach. And he decided to make a big melodramatic post talking about how he was done with the franchise and he didn't like the direction it was going and how his game was going to put FNAF back on the track of what it should have been, the things that appealed to him to begin with. And I agree with him. I fell off of FNAF after FNAF 2. I agree with him that the more stupid, childish, furry stuff isn't appealing, and I don't like it. So me and him relate on a lot of levels. Like, I like this guy. I like his game. But unfortunately, he's also doing terrible stuff. So he basically put Scott on blast, even though Scott's the guy who's paying him and the guy who is putting his stakes in his game and promoting his game. And then he, despite being super critical of FNAF and making that big post, he ends up going on and calling out people on Twitter for hating on the Fanverse. This is the same guy who said that when he releases his game, he's done with not only the FNAF franchise, but he's done with the fandom. But then he's going to gatekeep,
really
which is something I said should be done in the last video, but not like this. He's going to gatekeep for a community he doesn't care about, and he's going to pretend to be an authority figure when he doesn't like the authority he's given. He doesn't like the franchise. He doesn't like the fans. He's just defending the Fanverse, which is his own fucking clique. And unlike Kane, who doesn't name names and tries to stay impartial, quotation marks, this guy, he names names. He links links. He fucking tells you where to go. So I can at least respect him for that. I can at least respect him for being a jerk publicly rather than playing games. But honestly, I find it hypocritical that someone who's so critical of Scott, someone who's so critical of the corporations at play, doesn't like when he's the corporation and doesn't like when someone's critical of him and his group of people. Scott could have acted the same way to you. Scott could have kicked you out of the Fanverse. Scott could have done X number of things to you when you acted that way to him. But Scott actually is business smart, and Scott is smart enough to know that that is bad for business. Calling out each other and calling out detractors on your fucking main account is not good for business. Attacking people is not good for your business.
No, you're gonna turn people away. People aren't gonna want to fuck with your
You're gonna split the franchise, you're gonna split the audience, and you're going to end up losing money. That is what happens when you do this stuff. We've seen it happen with Star Wars, we've seen it happen with Marvel, we've seen it happen with God knows how many different communities online. You do not weaponize your audience, and you do not attack the haters. You are a public figure. You are representing Scott. You are representing the Fanverse. You should not be acting like this. You are an adult. I get that you're young, but you are an adult. Your thing is literally called Five Nights at Freddy's Plus. You represent Five Nights at Freddy's. Try to act like it. If Scott wouldn't do something, you shouldn't do it.
But you also have to take into account that there's always going to be people hating on something. There's always going to be people critical of something. And criticism does not equal hate, and just because someone is hating on something doesn't mean you need to call it out.
Very true. And you should be able to take that on the chin. Like, for the people who are calling out the Fanverse, like, you shouldn't put them on blast on your fucking social media account. You should just take it on the chin and accept that some people are going to be critical. And from what I've seen... you don't have
to take the criticism.
From what I've seen...
If you don't like it, you don't have to take it.
From what I've seen, this is only stemmed from the fact that the pair leaks happened. Like, when the pair leaks happened, it made both him and the Pop Goes creator, Kane Carter, more paranoid and more on edge. And now they're starting to attack people and call out people who are critical and who covered the Pairgate stuff. When in reality, Pairgate was partially responsible for these two, and they helped make it happen through not being more careful of who they gave information to and who they gave stuff to. So, it's sad that Pairgate has caused this type of paranoia and this type of infighting, but it's the egos at play that's also causing it. And him and Kane Carter personally led to the breakdown of Theft King. And I know that Theft King could have taken the advice I gave these two and not responded and not done all of this, but at least I can say this for Theft King. Theft King only represents himself, so if he fucks up, it only hurts him. If he fucks up, he's the only one that loses money. If you guys mess up, Scott could get some of that hate. If you mess up, that's a stain on Freddy. So, you represent something more than you while you work with Scott. But Scott does not get off scot-free. We're going to talk about Scott now. So, first of all, Scott is all responsible for the fanverse, and a lot of the people who are talking about this because they are Five Nights at Freddy's fans currently, or have a Five Nights at Freddy's audience, they're not wanting to talk about Scott because they like Scott. I like Scott. I respect Scott. Scott built an empire from nothing all on his own. But Scott deserves to be held accountable just like anybody else. So we're going to talk about the issues with Scott and how he contributed to the fanverse sucking. So, first of all, Scott's idea for the fanverse was to reward the fans by giving them an opportunity. But then he doesn't communicate with the developers. No. He'll leave them on red. He'll ghost them. He'll take months at a time to not respond to them.
I can kind of get it. He's a busy guy. He's got stuff going on. He's got a big family to take care of. But this is also his responsibility.
Yeah.
He has to take care of this as well, because he's the one who set this up.
He is the producer on these titles. When the people who are working on these titles need confirmation from someone, it's him. And I know that he said that he retired, but this is a project you were working on before you left. At least finish your plate before you leave the room, Scott. You're a Christian man. You should know that one. So it's his obligation to at least talk to these guys and deal with the things that he started. If he doesn't want to continue the fanverse, fine. Get done what you already agreed to do and then be done with it. Don't fucking leave these people high and dry for no reason. Now, second problem is Scott does not address the issues with the developers. When the guy who made Flumpies got in hot water, Scott didn't do anything. Scott didn't make a statement. Scott didn't say, I disagree with this. Scott didn't do anything. Scott has been radio silent. When these guys are going through this where they're tearing the FNAF community apart through attacking the haters, Scott is doing nothing. Scott is standing by watching everything burn and going, this is okay. That's literally Scott right now. And
he really needs to say something.
Pop Goes was trending on Twitter. Pop Goes was trending on Twitter. FNAF was trending on Twitter. And it was not anything positive. It was solely the infighting. And Scott could break it up at any given moment by just making a statement. But he's choosing not to. He's choosing to not say, hey, I put trust in you guys to uphold my brand's integrity, and you are squandering that by acting immature. I expect better from you guys. He could do anything. Talk to them privately about it. I know that's one of his fears, because he doesn't talk to anybody privately, apparently. But all he has to do is talk to them. Say, don't do this. This is your public image. Don't squander it. But he doesn't. Yeah.
No.
So,
and if that's an issue he has.
So, speaking of him not promoting something, Scott also doesn't promote the projects that he's working on. When you promote something, like when you give it money to fund it to begin with, you think that you would share when the game comes out? You think that you would upload maybe trailers to the FNAF YouTube account? Maybe post about it at all? But instead, Scott seems to think that the game should stand on their own, and the developers should do all the guerrilla marketing themselves. I understand where he's coming from because he built his thing on his own. I don't think personally that he should have to build these people up. But I get where people are coming from when they say he should promote it. I don't agree with it, but I get it.
I think because it's stuff underneath the FNAF name.
I get it.
There should be
understand it. If you're gonna slap Freddy and Chica and friends in it, you could at least give a shout out. But I understand what he's doing. He gave them the money to begin with. He's giving them the platform and the opportunity. They can get the word of mouth themselves. They already have the word of mouth, or else they wouldn't even get recognized to begin with.
Yeah. I definitely get it, but I still think, like, there should be something, because I was not aware of some of these, because I don't really follow FNAF fan games. I'm more concerned with, like, the mainline stuff, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the mainline stuff. I really didn't know some of these were being made, like Pop Goes, until people like Beth King was talking about it, and that actually made me interested in it. But then Kane was doing that stuff, it kind of turned me away from his stuff. I'm not gonna lie.
Speaking of merchandise, though, Scott doesn't inform people when he makes merchandise of their products. Now,
No.
according to the people involved, it's in their contract that he doesn't have to. And I'm assuming if it's not completely all on Scott's end where he benefits from everything, they're at least going to get a cut. But you think Scott could at least tell them, hey, here's the line of Pop Go stuff, here's the line of Flumpy stuff, here's the line of FNAF Plus stuff. You get to know that it's happening. But apparently he doesn't even give people that courtesy. Scott is so hands-off and so incompetent with running this that people don't even know merch is coming out.
See, I would at least give them like a heads up, a notice saying, hey, I'm making merch of your stuff.
If Scott ran this like a business, like it is, then they would be informed about business decisions.
Exactly. I mean, like, he could work with them as well, like, get their input on what the toys should look like and stuff.
And now here's my biggest problem with Scott. He set up this Fanverse to begin with. And when he set up the Fanverse, he ended it with the idea of more people getting into the Fanverse. He didn't set a criteria. He didn't set a submission option. He didn't do anything that a professional company would do. If you go to DC, if you go to Marvel, if you go to practically anything, they tell you they have strict rules. Don't fucking make things with the intention of getting accepted by them. They'll fucking come to whoever they want to, and they'll sign up whatever they want to. Don't come to them, they'll come to you. Scott didn't even say that. He just said he'll be on the lookout. So that has made a whole bunch of people want to get into the Fanverse, so they're making projects specifically to get into the Fanverse. And it was through this desperation, through this idea, that people became jealous and formed the pair group to begin with. The leaks solely happened because of spiteful game devs who wanted to get noticed by Scott Senpai and couldn't. So they took it out on the people who did. So Scott, through his vagueness, through his unbusiness-like decisions, set up the situation that caused Pairgate to happen. Scott, through his ill management of his fucking employees, has caused the situation recently on Twitter. Scott, through his incompetency, has made it to where no one knows what's happening with their merch, no one knows what's happening with their games, and no one knows what's happening with anything FNAF. Because Scott decided to leave Twitter because people called him a Republican.
Oh, spooky.
Scott has decided to leave all of social media and ghost everyone for months on end because he got called a Trump supporter. Scott, you're running a business, a multi-million-dollar business, and that's me cutting you short. You need to start acting like a businessman, or you need to get someone who will, because this is a terrible, terrible setup.
Yeah, I kind of get it some, because he was getting, people were doxing him, he was getting death threats, people were attacking his family and stuff. But at the same time, he is a business owner.
Yeah, if he wanted to retire, he should have got a Kathleen Kennedy. He should have got a follow-up successor. He should have had someone, you know what I mean. He should have had someone handpicked to take over for him. And that person should already be running FNAF. This isn't something you do later. This is something you do before you leave. So now, let's not end this on a negative note. On the positive side, a lot of games have been funded because of the Fanverse. A lot of people have been given opportunities they wouldn't normally. People get to use an IP and actually sell stuff under that IP. And as far as I'm aware of, Five Nights at Candy's and The Joy of Creation, which those look really good and have been famous for a while now, are good projects run by good people and have no big issues with them. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments section down below. As far as I'm aware of, they haven't done anything stupid or anything so stupid that it got under my radar. But with everybody else, they've been doing stupid stuff that has pushed me to this point. That goes for Scott, that goes for Fiznom, that goes for Kane, that goes for Jonachrome. Like, seriously? The FNAF community needs to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
The FNAF community needs to not baby their creators. These are grown men who are running a fucking business. These are grown men who are game developers, who are fucking employees under a company. And I don't care how much you're getting paid. You signed the contract. You are a
Exactly.
celebrity. You get held to those standards. And you should know how to act and how to use your platform. Each and every one of you have fucked up epically over and over again. You guys have been tarnishing the FNAF name really hard over the past year. 2021, 2022 has been the worst years for FNAF so far. All the delays, all the fucking controversies, all of the hate, all of the new directions, all of the criticism is caused through the people who are running FNAF. And like it or not, you guys are fans. Now you are running FNAF. You guys are the future. And the future's not looking bright.